Scott McLaughlin from Penske, crashed in practice, out of top 12 qualifying. His teammates Joseph Newgarden and Will Power have failed technical inspection. They have been withdrawn from the top 12 qualifying session as well. We are down from 12 to 9 cars. Third place on the grid back in 2020, the best starting position he's ever had at this race, pulling incredibly close to the wall on the exit of 4 for Takuma Sato over the line.
Checker flag.
And it is a
P1.
2:31, 686. That is the best average so far.
You add more downforce for this right here, the final lap. You want to be able to stay flat through that fourth corner, and Rosenqvist does just that.
Checkered flag, red 12, checkered flag. Good job there. P1.
P1, and not by a small margin, by 9/10 of a mile an hour.
Sketch factor 10 with 2 corners to go. Schwartzman never raced on an oval, as you said, Will. He's got 1 corner to go, and he might be in the Firestone Fast 6.
If he can avoid the slowest 3 times, that is exactly where Robert Schwartzman will be on debut at the Indianapolis 500. Robert Schwartzman is the second fastest time, and he's through to the Fast 6.
Unbelievable.
Dixon with an average of 232.017 over 3 laps. What's he got over 4? Is it better than Malukas? It's a 231.971. It puts him third. Critically, it puts him safe. Scott Dixon is through to the Fast 6. Pato O'Ward completes the 4, takes the checker, crosses the line, and for O'Ward, it's second fastest. A very, very tidy 4-lap run. He may not make the Fast 6 if he cannot find something magic on this lap. He is bleeding time and losing out. David Malukas currently transfers on a 231.599. Pallou's dropped to a 231.7 average. He's utilizing the hybrid now. He is narrowly ahead of David Malukas. Can Palou transfer to fight for the pole here at the Indy 500?
Hybrid power used up coming out of 4. It's going to be close.
Over the line for Palou, and it's good enough. Up to 5th for Alex Palou. Here's who advances then to the Firestone Fast 6. We're into last chance qualifying. Deployment of the last of the hybrid for Armstrong. Over the line for him. The benchmark time, the benchmark speed to beat, 229.091 miles an hour. 2 corners to go for Marco Andretti. His average still high at 229.774.
Do you see a little wiggle there, James? Turn 3, the back of the race car just starting to loosen up a little bit. I wonder if that tight line is asking too much of the rear tires.
Has it lost him time in comparison to Armstrong? Over the line for Andretti, and it's good enough to beat him. 229.741. That will be very nicely done. Round the final corner, he will complete this 4-lap average. It won't contest with Armstrong or Andretti.
Checker flag.
It will be a 227.112 for Jacob Abel. VK comes to complete his 4-lap run. It won't set the world on fire, but it will be quicker than his teammate. As it stands, VK is in the Indianapolis 500. His teammate, Jacob Abel, is not. Jacob Abel was the only driver who was going to make a second attempt, and yet here is his teammate.
I love it. I love it. Dale Coyne said, I'm going to allow my teams to compete independently. This, all of a sudden, could be an extremely close battle to make the race. VK rounding turn 4 for the final time.
VK rolled the dice to see if he could go faster, and as he crosses the line, the answer, I'm afraid, will be that he hasn't. It's a 226.9. The average is a 226.4. If he can find a ½ mile an hour for the average over the line, Jacob Abel will be in the Indy 500.
That would be quite the stretch based on what we've seen so far. But Jacob Abel is going to give it his best shot. 2 corners to go.
Through turn 3 for the Miller High Life car. A livery we know so well, a livery that has won this race, a rookie hoping to make it in. The question, as he rolls to the yard of bricks, is Jacob able? And he's not. It's a 226.394. Rinus VeeKay will be in the Indy 500. Round turn 4 for Takuma Sato, the two-time winner of the Indianapolis 500, to set the benchmark in the Firestone Fast 6 for RLL. Taku takes a 232.478, and that is a solid benchmark. He's been the fastest man all week, but I don't think this is going to be enough. Palou goes second. Takuma Sato stays on provisional pole. It's good, but will it be good enough? Sato's at 232.478. Dixon's average for the 4 is a 232.0. Sato stays top. At the moment, he's tracking ahead of Takuma Sato. Down into turn 1, into turn 2. It is another first lap in the 233s for Robert Schwartzman. Through turn 4 for Robert Schwartzman, the rookie at the Indianapolis 500, down to the yard of bricks and over the line. It's P1 for Robert Schwartzman, and the crowd salute a new hero. It will not be pole for Pato O'Ward, but where will it be? It's third for O'Ward, narrowly ahead of Scott Dixon. Rosenqvist now with 2 corners to go to break the hearts and dreams of Prema Racing and Robert Schwartzman. I've got to be honest, I don't think it's there. I think this is going to be history. For the first time in 43 years, we're going to have a rookie on pole for the Indy 500. Rosenqvist across the line, and it's 5th. Robert Schwartzman is on pole as a rookie at the Indianapolis 500 for a team in its first ever season.
Up next is the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500, Sunday, May 25th at 10 a.m. Eastern on Fox.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode number 80 of the Push to Pass podcast. I know we are a little bit early. We usually go on at 8 o'clock p.m., but do we have a banger of a show for everyone this evening? Yes, we're going to be on for 2 hours. Yes, I know. You're going to have to see my ugly mug for 2 hours. I know. Sorry. Bear with me. But again, do we have an awesome show in store for everyone? It took a lot of planning. We were able to put this together, this 2-hour 109th Indianapolis 500 special. Obviously, the race is Sunday. A lot to talk about that pertains to the Indianapolis 500 on Sunday. A lot to talk about from qualifying over the weekend. Obviously, apparently there was some big happenings out at the track, unless you were living under a rock. But we're going to talk about those. That's why we had to add the extra hour. So we'll get into that. Also, we have 3 amazing guests that are going to be taking time out of their busy day to join us here. First, coming up in the middle half of hour number 1. Caleb Hatch. I think he has been on here before, if I remember correctly. He is the host of the New Track Record podcast, so he's going to be joining us here at about 7:30. Following him at the top of hour number 2, absolutely admire this individual, the work that he has done, not only on INDYCAR Radio Network, but locally here as well. Friend of the show. He's been on here before. Jake Query, host of Query and Company, noon on 107.5 and 1070 The Fan. And as I mentioned, turn announcer for the INDYCAR Radio Network is going to be joining us at about 8 o'clock. And then the bottom half of hour number 2, I've gotten to know this individual, introduce myself. We met last year at the Indianapolis 500. It seems like that's the only time we meet, but was able to reconnect with him as well. Got him confirmed coming on today as well. So around 8:30, Andrew Chernoff, sports journalist from WISH-TV, is going to be joining us to talk about the Indianapolis 500 this coming Sunday as well. I know everyone else is patiently waiting for 2 other individuals to join me, so let's pop them up here on screen. As you see, Josh is here and Michael is here as usual. Fellas, this is like the Super Bowl. This is what people that are into racing, specifically in the Indiana and the state of Indiana, look forward to. Memorial Day weekend. The month of May ultimately all comes together this coming Sunday for the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500. A lot to talk about, a lot to discuss. But before we get into any of that, first, Josh, how are you this evening? Josh, I have no sound from you at all. All right, while Josh tries to reboot, we'll throw it over. Michael, I know how excited you are. It seems like all month you've been out at the track. I don't know how much your wife has seen of you, but how are you this evening?
Well, kind of tired, but yes, I've been at the track pretty much every day. There's been a car on track. So, yeah, pretty tired. She hasn't seen me very much, but she knows how much the month of May means to IndyCar and to me in general. So, and honestly, this state, I mean, you drive around anywhere around Indianapolis and you'll see Indianapolis Motor Speedway flags, checkered flags everywhere. So this is a big deal, not only for IndyCar, but for the state of Indiana, the city of Indianapolis, the city of Speedway. Just a lot to take in this month. And yeah, we've been at the track quite a bit.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We all have, but we've all, had our share, and everything comes together, comes to a head. Like I said, this coming Sunday with the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500. Let's see if we've gotten Josh back. Josh, how are you this evening? All right. Well, we still have no audio from Josh. Let's see if he's able to fix whatever demons or gremlins, I guess, is what they say is within his computer system over there. But let's get into qualifying here a little bit, Michael. I know you were out Saturday and Sunday, and then I was able to join you Sunday. Before we get into the results and what the starting grid is officially going to look like, and I say that tongue in cheek, kind of curious to get your thoughts on what you've seen qualifying Saturday, and then what you've seen on Sunday as well.
Yeah, traditional Saturday, we get the 13 through 30 set. We unfortunately know who the final 4 are going to be in bump day, and then we know the fast 12. A couple of things to take from Saturday was in that morning warm-up practice session, Marcus Armstrong hit the wall pretty hard, destroyed his primary car, wasn't cleared to drive there for a little bit after coming out of the care center. So that was big news going in. In the bottom, you had the 2 Dale Coyne cars. You had a big hitter in Marco Andretti. So the good news is that Marcus Armstrong was able to turn a lap in qualifying. It wasn't a fast lap, but it is a road and street course car that they have had to kind of put together. If you watched qualifying on Saturday, you'll see Frankenstein out there. So yeah, it was pretty interesting Saturday, and then Sunday, obviously the big day, and I know we'll talk more about that here in a few minutes. But big situation there with Penske, rookie on the pole, things like that. So it's going to be going to be an interesting topic here to talk about. And we'll throw it over to Josh. I think he's got audio now, and we'll see if we can. Yeah, we can hear you, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I don't know what was wrong with there. I'm doing pretty good. I was listening to what you guys were saying off air, so we'll just keep going. And it was a great weekend out at the track. First and foremost, I want to congratulate Robert Schwartzman on being the first rookie in a little over 30 years to get the pole, and not only with being a rookie, but this being his very first time ever being on an oval. And I know there was a lot of talk about people talking about that Prema may not even get 2 drivers in, and look, they have a pole sitter, so can't wait.
Josh, you bring up a very valid point. Before we get into any of this, I want to apologize, and I'm going to eat a little crow here for a minute. Me and Michael were both talking on Friday that, and it was mostly me that brought up the point of, what's Prema's real thought process, being a new team, coming over. A lot of their their makeup, a lot of the people they brought over from Italy. So not having a lot of background in IndyCar, what are their expectations? And I thought myself that if I was part of that Prema team, the expectations for this year would be just to compete. And have they done that? No, I don't think so. So I'm going to apologize to the whole Prema team, because coming into the month of May, my mindset was the team that was going to get bumped. I thought it was going to be one of the Prema cars. I didn't know if it was going to be 83 or 90. I would have leaned more towards Robert Schwartzman in 83, and you see how wrong I was there. But yes, I just want to first and foremost throw that out to Prema, that I apologize that I thought that you guys would not compete here at the 500. And I thought one of your cars would get bumped, and you showed me. But yes, a lot went into Saturday there. And then we roll over to Sunday, Michael. And I know you got there a little before I did. Josh had a prior engagement, so he couldn't make it. But let's talk Sunday, what that qualifying looked like, and then a little bit of controversy that ended up bleeding over to Monday.
Yeah, controversy for sure. Big penalties for Penske. Sunday was an interesting day. You get to the track, you've got a lot of the garages closed. Some people get a couple of hours off rest, which is nice. Drivers get some time off, so that's always good, especially in the month of May, how busy it is. Yeah, I agree with you. I have to eat that as well. I have to eat crow as well, because I was definitely voting against Prema for not making one of their cars making the 500. I agree with you. I think it would have been Robert Schwartzman. He's just, honestly, is nothing to do with him as a driver. It was more about how they had 6 laps one day, the first day in practice. So from where they started to
live coverage continuing from Indy here, in a hug of teammates. Last chance qualifier Kevin Lee is with Jacob Abel.
The Indy 500 is always about the fastest 33. You were flat the whole way. Do you come away thinking there's anything different you could do?
Yeah, no, sadly. I mean, unfortunately, starting yesterday, kind of been preparing for this a little bit.
Derik, what are you trying to do to me tonight? You got me on my toes. So
I did not do anything.
Oh, I just had a random video playing. Okay. Anyway, I felt Prema was definitely a car to go home. Robert Schwartzman, God love the guy. He hasn't had much practice about any time this year in any of the races. So for him to go out, put it on the pole, is just incredible. Big congratulations to Takuma Sato. This is the only race he runs every year. He's on the front row as well. And just in talking with Ryan Briscoe after qualifying, he is the team director over at Prema, former Indy 500 pole sitter for Team Penske. As funny as that is, he was very excited, obviously, for getting that car. But he told me he knew that they had a good car, and that they had the engineering team to at least compete in the race. So, yeah, I mean, it was just incredible. I haven't heard a applause like that from a crowd, a unanimous, like, ground shaking applause like that in a very, very long time. So I think he's won over the hearts of many people at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So only time will tell what he can do in a race. Remember, Josh alluded to it. This is his first oval race in his career, not in an IndyCar, in his career. He comes from a Formula One background, so it's road and street courses. So going into turn one, lap one, he may be a little hesitant. So we'll have to just see how the race plays out for him.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. All of the advice that Robert's going to get, probably from, like you said, Ryan Briscoe and others, as to how to take that first turn on Sunday, because Takuma Sato and Pato O'Ward are going to be chomping at the bit to jump the rookie. So going to be interesting to see what Robert Schwartzman does decide to do. Let's take a look at now. We can now say the official starting lineup, as we had some interesting ongoings that have kind of finally sorted themselves out here. But obviously the 33 car field is going to be made up like this. First, obviously on pole, we're just talking about there, you have Robert Schwartzman, followed by Takuma Sato and Pato O'Ward. Row 2. On the inside is going to be Scott Dixon, Felix Rosenquist, and Alex Palou. Row 3, David Malukas, Christian Lundgaard, Marcus Ericsson. Row 4, crashed. Going to be interesting to see how he comes back and how they rebuild the yellow submarine there in the Thirsty Threes. Scott McLaughlin, Connor Daly, Alexander Rossi. Row 5, Kiffin Simpson, Ed Carpenter, and Santino Ferrucci. Row 6, Devlin DeFrancesca, Stingray Robb, and Christian Rasmussen. Row 7, trying to complete the double this weekend, is Kyle Larson, followed by Lewis Foster and Callum Ilott. Row 8, the drive for 5, Elio Castro Neves, followed by Kyle Kirkwood and Nolan Siegel. Row 9, Ryan Hunter-Reay, followed by teammate Jack Harvey and Colton Herta. Row 10, Graham Rahal, Marco Andretti, and Marcus Armstrong. And then row 11, who we thought was going to be potentially the car to get bumped out, but he gets in, Rinus VeeKay, and then 2 former Indy 500 champions that have found their way to the last 2 spots. We're going to get to that in depth here shortly, Joseph Newgarden and Will Power. So that does make up the field of 33. And I don't know how this video was playing. I don't know if Michael had it going on in the background or what, but I do have, and I thought it was kind of interesting that he beat me to the punch. But an interview from Jacob Abel right after he got out of the car, finding out that he was going to be the lone driver that was going to get bumped out on Sunday. Let's listen to that.
Live coverage continuing from Indy here, in a hug of teammates. Last chance qualifier Kevin Lee is with Jacob Abel.
The Indy 500 is always about the fastest 33. You were flat the whole way. Do you come away thinking there's anything different you could do?
Yeah, no, sadly. I mean, unfortunately, starting yesterday, kind of been preparing for this a little bit. Super weird situation. We were happy all week. We're happy all week long. The 51 Miller High Life car was fast, and we were fast in no-toes. We were very, very conservative with everything. We're kind of ready to trim out. Yesterday, it seems like something just happened overnight, Friday to Saturday, and we just immediately lost speed, and it's just been getting slower and slower every single run. Thought we had a chance there at the end because our teammate went slower. It's not how you want to do it, obviously. We're both back there. I don't need to tell you guys how good Renus VK is around here, but I think we're struggling a little bit. It sucks. Thought this was going to be my first Indy 500, but hopefully that day will come sooner rather than later.
The list is long of really quality drivers. Pato O'Ward did not make the Indy 500 his first time by. Does that give you any solace at this time?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, knowing that I was flat all 4 laps on every attempt, and we were just a little bit behind our teammate there, who's been on the front row here like every single time. So it's been a tough season so far, to be honest. But keep getting knocked down over and over again, kind of. But hopefully we'll figure it out and rebound.
To see what good things are in store for Jacob Abel. I have no doubt that the skill that Jacob has behind the wheel, that as he said, he is going to make his first Indianapolis 500, using his words, sooner rather than later. We do a little thing on here. We actually did do who we thought was going to get on pole for Sunday's race, and thought this, but we'll pull these up on screen for everyone right here. I went with Pato O'Ward. I thought I went with a hot hand there, and you see, I just missed it. Josh went with Alex Palou, and again, how could you bet against him? Obviously, being one, if not the fastest car of the month so far. Michael went with Felix Rosenquist, who had a good shot there at the end, was quick over the weekend, just couldn't quite get it done. And our guest picker, who I don't know if she's really a guest picker anymore, she continues to pick week in and week out, but Joy, of all people, picked Robert Schwartzman. She went with 83 and picked up her first victory of the year. So there is a two-way tie for first here, as you see down at the bottom. I've gotten two drivers right this year. Josh has gotten 2 drivers right, believe it or not, both Alex Palou, and Michael, and now Joy is on the board with 1. So, fellas, before we wrap up qualifications, the qualification portion, the review portion of the show, anything else that you guys want to touch on driver-wise to do with qualification this past weekend?
Yeah, I've got something, and we'll talk a little bit more about it in the controversial part later on. I think that Doug Bowles needs to step up and let Jacob Abel into this race. He was cheated. He was slow, but the excuse that Doug Bowles has given to me and the rest of the world about why they are not going to put Jacob Abel into this race is just flat out wrong to me. And we'll talk a little bit more about it in the controversial part of this. But Jacob Abel went out there with a legal car both days, not just one day. He went out there both days, had a legal car, and tried to run. There were you can't. You know what? I'm going to save it for the next portion. But Jacob Abel is getting cheated out of his first try of being in the Indy 500, and I think it's wrong. I think the way that Doug Bowles is, I know he's put in a rock and a hard place because of who owns the series, who owns the track. You can't tell me that those two things don't coincide with this, and who owns the team that is in question. But Jacob Abel should be in this race. There's a precedent for 434 cars to be in. They've done it in the past. They should do it this year.
So I totally disagree. And the reason I totally disagree with you is because this problem was found on Sunday. If it had been found on Saturday, I would totally agree with you. but they qualified on Saturday, and the problem wasn't found. So they passed inspection, so they were fast on Saturday. They made the fast 12. So, and Jacob Abel didn't. I mean, if he would have been 31st, maybe you could say that, but I don't agree with throwing Jacob Abel in there. I don't want this controversy any more than anyone else, but you're going to add on to the controversy if you start removing people, adding people, things like that. And then, okay, so you add Jacob Abel. Who are you pulling? Are you pulling the defending champion of the race, or are you pulling Will Power? How do you determine that? So those
you don't have to pull either one of them. You could put 34 cars in. There have been 34 cars put in this race before. It has happened. It can. And to tell me that, okay, I'm going to get into this. To tell me that it was caught on Sunday and not on Saturday, there's no way. And for the penalty that these two drivers are serving is shows me that there was something else besides this. Who tipped off who? How did this all of a sudden just show up on Sunday and they're getting such a severe penalty? I have never seen this penalty happen that I know of, that somebody gets moved to the back, a part of the crew gets suspended and $100,000 fine. So this is not a one-time thing, in my opinion. This is a multiple-time thing that Team Penske was told about before. They let them off the hook once, in my opinion, and now they've got such a severe penalty. So there's no way you're going to tell me that those actuators were not on Saturday. They were overlooked, and then all of a sudden on Sunday they were put back on there, and they got caught. This isn't the first time Penske's been caught cheating. We let it go the first time. They got penalized, but there's so much evidence, and the car that's sitting in the museum has illegal actuators on there.
But okay, so you can say that this was done and this was done, but until you go through inspection and they say you're all clear and you roll out on track and you pass post qualifying inspection, because you go through pre-qualifying and post-qualifying, and they passed both, you can't come back then the next day and say, well, we have to penalize you. We talked about it in our group chat. You said it would be hard for them to go back and remove Joseph's win. So how are we going to go back and remove their qualifying times on Saturday? If they passed pre-qualifying inspection, they passed post-qualifying inspection, and it was found on Sunday, you can't go back and change the results from Saturday.
I'm not asking to change the results. All I'm asking is, because obviously we're going to come back to this, because I love the back and forth here between Josh and Michael. I knew this is exactly what was going to happen. We will talk about the post-qualifying fiasco 2.0 that Penske has found themselves in. But I want to get to our guest, because I know we have limited time with him. He is the host of the new Track Record podcast, and I'm sure he's going to have a lot to say when it comes to this controversy and this black cloud that, again, is looming over Team Penske. But Caleb Hatch is joining us. Caleb, again, first and foremost, huge thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your busy schedule. I know between doing your podcast and My Sports, which a lot of people don't know about, by the way, that's a Northwest Ohio thing, and a couple other projects that you have on the side. Just a busy man of late. But we were talking about first the qualifying. This past Sunday for the 500, and how rookie Robert Schwartzman came out of basically nowhere to capture the pole. Talk about that a little bit, and then again, I'm kind of curious to get to your thoughts on this black cloud again that is looming over Team Penske.
Well, first off, thanks for having me again. Appreciate it. If you want me on anytime, would love to talk IndyCar. I think we start with Schwartzman, as one of my buddies and I affectionately calling him Bobby Schwartzman. 180 that Prema had throughout the week. Remember, on Tuesday, their cars weren't even ready to be on track for the green flag for practice when practice began. Obviously, rain delays kind of helped buy them some more time. But, I mean, they were not they weren't ready. And to see what they did, and they were completely off the radar. I mean, going into this weekend, there were 3 cars I had my eye on to be bumped. 2 were Prema cars, and then the third was Jacob Abel. We know what ultimately happened. But I think with what Schwartzman did, not only as a rookie, but with a rookie team who, let's not forget, Michael Cannon, whatever disagreement, that's his side of the story. We're not going to get Prema's in terms of Michael Cannon leaving Prema, but he left, and we all thought, okay, going in, they had Michael Cannon. They should at least be good at Indy. Well, then he leaves before the season starts, some sort of disagreement, allegedly. He leaves, and you're thinking, wow, this team's really lost. They're going to be trying to just qualify for the race. And the fact that Schwartzman, who we saw Friday had some speed, but you're like, okay, but then to lay down 233s like he did both days, very impressive. He's a very talented race car driver, and I think maybe that's the element we forgot in all of this based on his experience in Europe and running an F2 and whatnot. But, I mean, he's had so many issues. That team has had so many issues. I mean, we know that the electrical fire at Thermal, that was a bizarre thing. They've struggled. And for what he did to come out of basically nowhere, I think that was the most impressive thing, the most shocking thing I think I have ever seen in Indy 500 qualifying. And we've seen some shocking things over the last handful of years. Graham Ray Hall missing the race, James Hinchcliffe missing the race, so on and so forth. But this was wild, and full props to Prema. No Michael Cannon, but that's not the storyline. I mean, you have good engineers. You have an engineer who was his day jobs with SpaceX, and he's taken time off this month to be the engineer for Schwartzman's car. I mean, it's just crazy stuff they're able to pull off, and you have to feel happy for Ryan Briscoe, a former Indy 500 pole sitter himself, to be with that organization and pull off what they did.
Yeah, Caleb, I think you're absolutely right. And I started the show off by apologizing to Prema Racing because I think collectively, we were all in the same camp coming in to the month of May, that if there was going to be a car that gets bumped, it was going to be in all of our minds. And maybe I shouldn't speak for everyone, but at least in my mind, I thought it was going to be one of the Prema cars. And I was leaning more towards 83 and Robert Schwartzman than I was with Callum Ilott, just for the fact that Ilott does have experience on the oval and Schwartzman doesn't. So I'm sorry, I was dead wrong, and I don't know what Prema found in between, like you said, when they couldn't get on the track to Sunday when Schwartzman was ended up collecting his first pole. But it's just amazing, and I think Michael had it best too. He was out there when Schwartzman took his run. And the reaction that the crowd gave him, I think he came back up to the media center, and he was such an awe in the reception that Schwartzman got. He looked at me and said that was, you could hear the ground shake, is how much the fans appreciated the run that Schwartzman put together on Sunday.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, everyone's cheering him on. I mean, how can you not cheer for a guy who's a rookie who comes in and to be that brave and be that successful in your first Indy 500 qualifying attempt? I mean, it's impressive. Think about the names that he beat. Obviously, the Penske's didn't get a run, and we'll get to all that. But, I mean, Will Power, all-time pole winner. He out-qualifies in his first Indy 500. Will Power still never won an Indy 500 pole, which is crazy to me. I mean, Alex Palou, Scott Dixon, Takuma Sato, Joseph Newgarden, Scott McLaughlin, on and on and on. It was so impressive what he did. And like you said, we all we all doubted Prema and in particularly him, because he's a rookie. And let's be honest, you expect to see a rookie crash at some point. I mean, that's just what happens. And he's been clean all month. And for his sake, let's hope that continues. But it's a wonderful story that, unfortunately, as we'll get to, is being overshadowed.
Yeah. Before we get into that story that is overshadowing the feat that Robert Schwartzman pulled off on Sunday, being the first rookie since 1983 to grab the pole at the Indianapolis 500. Josh or Michael, anything you want to ask Caleb about his thoughts on about the qualifying in general before we get to the black cloud that is looming over Team Penske and this year's Indianapolis 500?
Michael, if you got something, go ahead and ask.
Yeah, so we played the video of Jacob Abel being interviewed after, getting bumped. And it's kind of like he doesn't have that emotion on his face right there, like you see with Graham Rahal. Do you think maybe he doesn't realize how significant being bumped from the 500 is because he's never been in it?
I think for him, it's probably just the shock of the moment, right? I mean, we've seen other rookies in the past get bumped. Pato Ward was bumped his rookie attempt back in 2019 with Carlin. I think it's more just kind of the shock of like, wow, that really happened. I'm not racing in the Indy 500. I don't think there's any doubt that he, doesn't understand, what Indy's all about. But until you fully experience it, you really can't get the full picture. But I think it's just kind of the shock in the moment of just not knowing what to say, how to react, because it just happened.
All right. A lot to unpack here in the next few minutes. I know, we have Caleb for a little bit more. All right. Black cloud that is hovering over Team Penske right now. I've heard a lot of different things. I've heard people on radio stations saying that maybe with Roger Penske having a team in IndyCar, maybe he needs to back out from being the owner or step down. I've also heard that when cars go through tech inspection, maybe it needs to be an independent body that looks at and inspects all the cars. But a lot to talk about here. And I know people that have been paying attention the last couple of days know, exactly what went down. Actuators on the 2 car and the 12 car. Well, the 12 car, from my understanding, did make it through tech. The 2 car was going through there. They seen tech inspection, seen something they didn't like. They went back and pulled the 12 car, and they seen that the same thing on the 2 car was happening on the 12 car. So both of them got pulled from the grid. And I know Josh made the point earlier. Marshall Pruitt, hat tip to him, went to the museum and seen and looked at the car that Joseph Newgarden won last year's race with, and seen the same issue. So Caleb, I'll let you take this first. I know you came in and you've seen the great discussion that that Josh and Michael were having, and you heard a little bit of that. But kind of curious to get your take on what on the bigger story. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but the bigger story right now at the track is not the feat Robert Schwartzman did on Sunday. It's what Team Penske almost got away with.
Yeah, I think for one, I was at the museum on Sunday and I'm looking at these cars, and of course I'm not looking for that specific piece, but I had my eyes on it and probably didn't even, realize what I was seeing till after the fact. But I think the biggest thing with this attenuator fiasco, there are 2 things for me that really stand out. Number one, there's the allegation that teams, are saying, well, they've been doing this for a while, but then they didn't go to IndyCar about it. I get that there's a change in leadership, Jay Fry to Doug Bowles, and Doug Bowles saying, yeah, this is the first, we've heard of this being an issue. And to be fair, he's new on the job. So I guess that kind of, in that change in leadership, maybe that is how that could happen. And then the other thing for me is with IndyCar Tech, I mean, if this has been going on, you go back to at least last season, right? Based on the attenuator for Newgarden on his Indy 500 winning car that, based on photos, looks like has the same thing going on. To me, it's what's IndyCar Tech doing? Are they just disregarding this in the process and only making note because reverse back in line. I mean, the Penske crew for, I believe, Power, because Newgarden got flagged and Power had already gotten through tech. They're on the grid, and then they start trying to basically chip away and using some tools to cut away at this and create a groove again, as opposed to kind of the smooth part that they had. That's what it took for this to be noticed. Like, I guess it's just shocking that no one was able to not only point this out, but make something happen on it before, because clearly this has been going on longer than just this weekend. And if Penske's plan was to always change it from Saturday to Sunday, also bizarre. I mean, it just, all of it's weird. We saw Newgarden pull out of line along with Elliott Castroneves. Castroneves failed tech on Saturday. Newgarden, I believe, just pulled out of line. I can't recall exactly, but I mean, that's kind of the only hint. Scott McLaughlin gets lucky that his crash gives him a solid qualifying and starting position for the race. Otherwise, he'd be at the back of the field most likely too, even though he didn't have it originally. My guess is they would have put that piece on for qualifying. But I think the things that stand out is, if teams had this allegation, it took Chip Ganassi pointing it out. Like, why is no one speaking up until now? And I get that there's a culture of fear of speaking out against Penske within IndyCar teams and everything. Kind of like there's this, you're too afraid to confront the leader thing. But then the other is, what's IndyCar Tech doing if this had passed inspection going back to at least last season?
Michael, Josh, you want to chime in, because I know you're having a great discussion before Caleb got on here, and we just have a few more minutes with him. But either one of you two want to expand?
Caleb, you had a good point there. Go along with it. Don't make waves. Don't it's kumbaya. We don't want anything to happen. Mm-hmm. We don't bring up any problems. I was talking to a journalist in the media center this past Saturday. He had the same thoughts. If you ever bring anything up negative about IndyCar, you're taken out of the circle. So something has got to be done. Roger Penske cannot be a track owner, own the thing, own the series, and have a team. Even if he's not himself putting any pressure on anyone. It's just the optics. The optics look really, really bad that in 2 years, his team has been caught cheating twice now. In college sports, there's something called, coaches get suspended and show cause for something called, they're not knowing, lack of institutional control. And I think that Roger Penske has a lack of institutional control over his team. And something has got to be done, in my opinion. What is Tech doing? What brought their attention to the attenuator? Was it the fact that, like you were saying, somebody was chipping away at another car trying to make it look like it's not smooth anymore after it's past Tech? What was it? I mean, there's got to be something, and this can't be the first time, because this is too severe of a penalty to give to two drivers, in my opinion, if this was the first time.
Well, and the other thing, I get that the focus is on Penske because he owns the series and IMS and the team, but I guess the bigger concern to me, as far as we know, Penske stepped away from the day-to-day operations of Penske Racing, and that's fine. I mean, he said he would do that, and I believe he has done that. I don't think he's running the team on a day-to-day basis. He has bigger fish to fry, so to speak, at this point with the series and IMS. But with that said, in the past 14 months, this is the second instance that a team that's led now by Tim Cindric, now he was team president over everything last year, then he stepped down in the offseason just to be team president of IndyCar. So you have Tim Cindric and Ron Rzuski, who's essentially kind of the head of the IndyCar operation now, second in command only to Cindric on the IndyCar side. They both missed now 2 straight Indy 500s. To me, that's more where the lack of institutional control comes in. Like, if you're Roger Penske, the Indy 500 is everything to you in terms of racing. It is the event you want to win. It's the event that you made your career out of. In back-to-back years, you have scandals. Now, last year was at least at St. Pete, and there were suspensions that carried over to the Indy 500 just to kind of put down an iron fist. But it's not just what happened last year. It's that this is an embarrassment for Penske Racing and for Roger Penske himself that this would happen. And people always talk about, Penske perfect or the Penske advantage and whatever phrase you want to use. But the Indy 500 is everything to him. To me, I would be shocked if heads aren't rolled after this, whether it's after the race or into this month, into the season, because this is a stain. And Roger Penske now, suddenly 2 of his 3 cars are not in the best possible position to compete for a win at this race. And it's the same people at the top who've been at the helm overseeing these things. So I think there should be some real heat. And I'm not saying like they're both going to be fired or something, but I mean, clearly they're just, whatever happened last year wasn't strong enough because we have another allegation and another scandal this year. So the punishment was not strong enough last year. And now this year is the punishment strong enough is just going to be something else. And now, obviously, Penske's under a microscope as a team because of Roger's position. But if this were any other team, yeah, everyone would be upset and there'd be punishments and we'd move on. But I just think it's more on the people in charge of Penske Racing right now and not Roger Penske, who's, for all we know, not involved day to day. That they also should be under some legitimate heat for this.
Michael, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, so I don't know if you follow Bozy Tatiana.
I saw the story and read it. It's
yes,
good stuff.
It is good stuff. So from Derik and Josh, I don't know if you guys have read it. Basically, in 2024, they changed the attenuator. It used to be a solid structure. It was smooth all the way down. So I don't know where the bulletin was where they've said they've been doing this for over a year now. There's proof on the 2024 car. Did they just not? Is that an overlook? I'm not trying to make, excuses for them or anything like that. Is that just an overlook on their part? Like, hey, this is supposed to be smooth. We do know that sometimes the spec parts and single source pieces are, a little cattywampus, there's control issues there. So I'm not trying to make excuses for them or by any means, because I think you're right that this is, we could have not necessarily overlooked the push to pass, but they come out and said, hey, this was a computer software issue. Okay, sure. That can be kind of overlooked. This is physically something that is being tampered with. So it's hard to say, hey, this was just, an overlook, or this was just, we didn't understand the bulletin. If you read Bozy's piece, he's pretty detailed. And it looks like his actual thing is from the actual IndyCar rule book. So it's hard to bypass this. We can overlook maybe, hey, there was a software thing that kind of allowed that to happen. This is physically something that they've manipulated.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, he came to the conclusion that there's not really a speed advantage by doing this, but it's clearly against the rules. The rule book makes it very clear you can't do what they did. And, like you said, with the software thing, whatever, it was kind of a laughable reasoning in my opinion. But with this, it's clearly against the rules. They made that clear. And I think with this, there's nothing they can really fall back on. It was blatantly against the rules. The punishments have been handed out. Whether people agree or disagree, I think has more to do with how you feel about Penske and the whole conflict of interest thing. And that's, a separate thing, understandably so. But with this, what I find so troubling is, okay, the people in charge, and whether it was known or not, this oversight, clear violation of rules. No one's stopping it. No one's catching it. And they were just, business as usual. How can you not be up to speed on the rule book? I mean, that's like the number one thing you should be locked in on in terms of running your team, is making sure what you're doing is within the rules. And this was so far outside the rules. It's just a bad look all around.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree with everyone's point that something needs to be done. What that something is probably beyond my pay grade. But definitely, 2 years now, and we've had 2 black clouds over Team Penske that have taken away different storylines in each year. So definitely something that needs to be done. We're definitely going to be waiting and seeing what that something is. But Caleb, before you leave, obviously, promote your podcast there a little bit, and then give us a race pick as to who you think is going to be drinking the milk on Sunday.
Yeah, so New Track Record Podcast, IndyCar Podcast is the handle on socials, mostly on Twitter is where we interact. But we're always posting content and do weekly episodes. Should be dropping Friday afternoon this week. We'll recap, qualifying, preview the Indy 500. So that's where you can find us on there. And as far as a pick, I mean, I haven't put a lot of thought into recently in terms of like the results and where my head's at, but I guess I should just stick with who I picked before the season, and I picked Pato O'Ward. So why not stick with that? He's come close. He's on the front row. We know he'll have a good car. He's got a good team, and the threat of the Penske's is really not so much there. So it's really him, and then my short list beyond Pato. I mean, it's Pato, Sato, Dixon, Pillow. I mean, that's my short list. That's it. So that's kind of where I'm at, but Pato O'Ward's my pick.
I definitely can't go wrong with that list, and you're not going to get any complaints from me. Hopefully that doesn't tell everyone who I'm going to pick this weekend, but I'm right there with you. Caleb, again, as always, a huge thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your busy schedule between probably covering high school baseball and some side projects you have on the side. Plus, as you said there, the New Track Record Podcast. Again, huge thank you for joining us. And if I don't know if you're going to be down here this weekend or not, but if you are, let's we'll see if we can get together.
Sounds good. Anytime, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Caleb.
Absolutely.
Again, go check that out there. Caleb Hatch, New Track Record Podcast, doing some great things, great work all around. Again, if you're looking for another source for IndyCar news, definitely go check out the work that Caleb Hatch and his other host does over there on the New Track Record Podcast. I know we're going to be joined here momentarily in the next few minutes by our next guest, but let's pick up the discussion that we just left off with, because I know Josh and Michael were definitely scrapping a little bit in the ring there. But again, I'm kind of curious if you guys want to expand on this a little more. I do have the Doug Bulls video from yesterday, but obviously that's going to be about 8 minutes long, so we may have to play that after our next guest leaves. And then I also have the rebuttal statement, if you want to call it that, from Team Penske that I'll put up on the screen as well. But in the short time that we have before our next guest joins us, I'll let Josh and Michael pick up where they left off.
Well, I've calmed down a little bit. I'm not going to be as fiery right now, but I think it's a bad look for IndyCar all around. I obviously think that Abel should be put in. You can make an exception. He's a full-time driver. I mean, you've got these other guys that came in and that are doing one-offs. You got the most popular one, Larson. And I think with the controversy, I think it would go a long way towards, making goodwill, in my opinion, and put Abel in. I mean, what can it hurt? I know the purists won't like it, but in 97 and another day, I think 77 maybe, it happened. They went more than just 33 cars. So I feel bad for Abel. Even if you tell me, well, the attenuator not being smoothed down wouldn't have being smoothed down or not being smoothed down would not have made any time difference. It's still the fact that they've gotten caught cheating. They got caught cheating, and it's not a good look. And I just think Abel should be put in. I know it's not going to happen, but that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, Doug Bowles basically said Abel's not getting in. And I have to agree with him, to be honest. And like I said earlier, it's all about when the violation was found. And had they found it on Saturday, then we could have a talk about them running last chance qualifying, which probably would have still kicked Jacob Abel out, unfortunately. I think it would have just realistically, I think it would have just moved, Armstrong and Andretti into the field. I think we can look at that. Now, where it gets tricky is there is teams that have reported it, and Doug Bowles was actually in his press conference was very vocal. Someone had asked him about that, and he was very vocal, basically like, if they haven't when leadership changes, you can't expect the old leadership to tell the new leadership everything, because the old leadership is like, get me out of here. If I'm no longer welcome, then I don't care much about it anymore. So you can't expect the old leadership to say, hey, there's this scandal supposedly going on. Here's the, dot to dot to dot. So that should have been coming from the teams after Doug Bowles come in and said, hey, listen, there's some sort of fishy stuff going around along with Penske on the attenuators. Just make sure that we're just asking that you, maybe the tech, does a little bit better job, maybe looking at that kind of thing. Also, if this has been going on for over a year, because Newgarden's car is in the museum with the attenuator on, this is more, hey, why is who's in charge of teching these cars? Because, okay, if I'm sitting here teching, Pato Ward's car, and we're checking the attenuator and everything, okay, this looks smooth, or this looks, this looks like it's good. Next, you see a Honda come through, Pelot comes through. Okay, next. And then here comes a Penske, and you're like, this looks a little different than the other two cars. Let me note that. And this is kind of what it sounded like happened Sunday is, hey, inspection noted Penske's car, passed it and said, hey, go on. We got to get the other cars through. Noted that and said, hey, there's something definitely different here. And then, a few cars come through, then the 2 car come through. But if this has been going on for a year or so, why in the world has technical inspection allowed it or not really caught on to that? And that's my big thing, if this has been going on for that long. So that's where I stand with the whole situation as far as technical inspection and Jacob Abel getting into the field.
Someone else I think that can shed a little bit more light and put this kind of into perspective is joining us. This individual is held in high regard for his knowledge and of just not IndyCar, but of just random facts. But Jake Query is joining us, and I know he had a great explanation. It was yesterday, I think, when this all came down, and I'd love to hear that again if he can rattle that off again. But Jake, again, huge thank you. I know it's a short notice getting you on here. I know you've had a busy day today, but it's unfortunate that another black cloud over Team Penske for the second year in a row is taking away from what Robert Schwartzman did on Sunday.
Well, first off, you guys can hear me all right. Thanks for having me on. It's interesting because today I was doing the fastest rookie luncheon, the American Dairy Association fastest rookie luncheon, and Robert Schwartzman was talking about, he said, actually there wasn't a lot of pressure on me because nobody, when I got to the fast 12, I don't think anybody really thought I had a chance, and so there wasn't a lot of attention on me. There wasn't a lot of eyeballs on me, and that that helped him. And as he was saying it, I was thinking to myself, man, like he kind of got the best of both worlds here because yes, it's a bad look for IndyCar and for the Indianapolis 500. Certainly, Doug Bowles was open about the optics of this, right? But at the same time, I'm like, if you're Schwartzman, here you are, a rookie pole sitter, and yet nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about the fact that a rookie is going to be leading the field. But undoubtedly, guys, this is, and I don't know. I don't know whether or not I've talked to a lot of people. And I think the prevailing question a lot of people had was, theoretically, this does not give you some monumental speed advantage. So based on that, kind of what Pato O'Ward said, why do it? And then it becomes, I think probably there was the thought process of a lot of teams that we need to make sure that this is policed and governed, because if we let this go, then what else are we letting go? So I just think it got to the point where I think there were a lot of teams, I know Marshall Pruitt has talked about and reported on the fact that a lot of teams have said that this is something that they've been aware of for a while, or that they've blown the whistle on for a while. As for why it was not, and I have the same questions as you guys. I mean, if this is illegal now, why was it not noticed through tech inspection in 24? If in fact it was on the car, which it appears as though it did. So there's a lot of questions to it for certain. I don't know necessarily when we will get definitively resolutions or answers on that. Certainly, I don't think before the race itself. And I also understand Doug Bowles' explanation as to why the two cars were kept in the field as opposed to completely disqualified, and why that meant that Jacob Abel was still, based on qualification speed, left out of the field. So a lot of layers to the onion for certain, and a lot of layers, some of which I think we will find out over the course of time, and others of which we may still be waiting till well after the race.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and Doug, I think, had to walk a fine line. I think on this, but the one question that I have, and obviously it's probably been said on all podcasts, probably people that Jake you've talked to and everyone else, is this such an issue if this was found on a non-Team Penske car? Is this an issue at all?
Is it an issue? Yes. Is it a major talking point? No. I mean, the reality is, it's the same thing of, is it as big a deal when, I'm trying to think of is it as good a big a deal when Kyle Kuzma fouls out of the game as it is when Giannis fouls out of the game? Well, both of them just committed their fifth foul, but one is much more impactful on the flow of the game. So when you have a penalty levied on the winningest team in the history of the sport, who happens to be owned by the same individual that owns the series and polices the series, and Roger Penske was very open about the fact when he purchased the Speedway and the league that he would be removed enough from the intersection of those entities that it would not be a conflict of interest. And so that's where it becomes a storyline. That's where it becomes a big deal. In addition to the fact that when you are the best, and historically, and I understand Ganassi Racing is, right now the best, right? I mean, but when you historically are amongst the best, then you always are going to have people that are looking to find out reasons, whether or not there was a nefarious reason that you got there. And so, yes, you are correct. If this were Dale Coyne Racing or Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing or Juncos Hollinger Racing, I think there would still be a press release that the driver had to start in the back of the field or had a penalty of 15 spots on the grid or whatever else. And it would affect some people in terms of they'd be disappointed when they drew that name out of the hat in the Northeast Vista. But it's a bigger story when you're talking about all of the entities and the confluence of relationships that I outlined there.
All right, before I move on and actually talk about the race itself, because I'm kind of curious to get your thoughts on that, Michael or Josh, anything you want to touch on here with Team Penske?
Jake, I just want to thank you for coming on. I know you've had a long day with the fastest rookie, and then I do believe you were out with Arrow out at the Kroger.
Right. Yeah.
I got one question, and I think maybe you had said something. I mean, I listened to your show, John's show, and the morning show pretty much every day on my way into work and driving around the state doing my work. My question is, these two cars were found to have actuators that were illegal. So why such a severe penalty, moving them to the back, suspending someone off their race team, and $100,000? Would it not normally just be, hey, you can't qualify, you're stuck in the spot that you're in? Why have we got? I haven't heard a reason. Why was the penalty so severe as to do all that instead of just saying you can't qualify, you're stuck in your spot?
It's a great question, Josh. And Doug Bowles did explain it this way. The IndyCar rule book has a listing of rules. One of those rules is that you cannot in any way alter the pieces to the DW12 out of the box that they list. And these attenuators were listed among those that could not be altered. So that we know. The other thing that's in the rule book is Rule 9.2.1. And Rule 9.2.1 gives IndyCar the ability, upon their discretion, to increase or magnify penalty against a violation if they feel that violation is magnified by the moment or the stage in which it is committed. And so when you have the biggest race in the world that is owned by one of the biggest believers and beloved followers of that race, and Roger Penske, who has routinely, been vociferous about the integrity of said event, then it was deemed by the officials of the NTT IndyCar series that violating that rule was also violating that pledge of trust to the fans. And so therefore they deemed by 9.2.1 that they exercised their ability to magnify the penalty based on what they determined to be a bigger and more severe stage and infraction than just the letter of the law in print of what the rule was. And that's why they exercise the option to create a bigger penalty, both from a grid standpoint and a monetary standpoint.
So if this would have been like the Milwaukee Mile, it would have just not been in the Milwaukee Mile race. It wouldn't have been severe because it's the 500 and it's put in such spotlight. That's why they did it.
I mean, obviously I'm not in the room to be able to speak definitively to that, but that's how it was explained and how I ingested that. Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, Jake. Yeah, thank you for coming on this evening. My question to you is Doug Bowles kind of said that this was the end of it, kind of a closed book on Team Penske as far as the penalties and anything else. Where do you see this going as far as, outline more rules in the rule book, or is this something that, the teams come together and discuss more, as a group?
Very good question. And I think, in the case of Doug Bowles, it's interesting because he's obviously new in that role, correct? And so he has a great relationship with all the teams. I mean, that goes without saying because he's been the promoter and the president of their biggest race. And so he has a working relationship with all of them. I kind of gathered it as what it was this being a case where Doug Bowles said, look, if you feel there are other things that I should have been aware of, then you should have told me, then I have an open door policy. Like, let me know what that is. And so I'm not saying they made an example of Team Penske. I mean, that's ridiculous to say. But I think that there were a lot of teams that when this came about, then came out and said, look, we've been telling you this has been going on. And as Doug Bowles said, well, you didn't tell me that. So now Doug is aware of it. And so, yes, I think this is very clearly going to be, I mean, if people, everybody from Team Penske down, and other teams seemingly wouldn't have anything to worry about here, right? But in terms of these sorts of rules, or even these, on a piece that's almost on the underbody of the car or harder to find on the car, one would assume that it's going to be tighter now than it's ever been. So is there a little bit of like example made of? I think that's an extreme to say, but I think it's safe to say that other teams now have taken note that if Team Penske is going to be penalized this severely, then gosh, what are they going to do across the board? So I think they wanted to make sure that everybody got wind of the fact and got the message of, look, maybe some things were aired in the past. Maybe some things were, I'm not going to say overlooked because I don't know that it was egregious, but that Kevin Blanche, for example, there might have been, as he mentioned, the rule book was very thick and he thought, I'm pretty sure that's a violation, but I need to double check it. So they sent power through, and that's when he saw two other cars that then he was able to contrast against. And then he saw Newgard's and said, okay, these are indeed violations. If they were delayed in exercising that as opposed to doing so in a more forthright manner in earlier races, they have erred there. But I think teams now are aware that certainly it would appear as though that's not going to happen again.
Yeah, I think you're right. And then what do you think as far as maybe some sort of independent, inspectors coming in and things like that, because this seems like a real drop of the ball on the tech side of things.
Yeah, it's certainly optically speaking. I don't think there's any question about that. I think, Doug Bowles was pretty open about the fact the optics of such that's something that they're going to look at. I'm not qualified to say whether or not that's something that imminently becomes a factor in terms of getting an independent, judge and jury. We'll put it that way. But certainly, I think it is fair to say that there are a number of teams and perhaps even manufacturers that would prefer it that way. And we're willing to give okay, we'll see how this can work out. And now are coming and saying, this is how we would prefer it. And that's going to be, this would create for a more fair and balanced across the board integrity of the technical inspection of it. Again, I don't think that anybody was working egregiously, but there's an optical issue there. And I'll defer to what Doug Bowles said, which was, we are aware of the optics. And when I say we, I mean the entity IndyCar Series, not me. I'm quoting them here, or paraphrasing them. We are aware of the optics. And so we're going to have long discussions about that. And yes, do I think that those long discussions are also motivated by those who have requested it? Probably more than not, who are very involved in the series. Yes, I think that probably is a factor as well. So I don't think that they're going to act that in an immediate or haste decision. I have zero idea on when that timeline would be, but I think it is a fair statement to say that that is absolutely something that will be explored and discussed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining us this evening and all your insight.
My pleasure. Listen, like I said, you guys said in the beginning that I'm held in high regard. Right there, like your checks in the mail, because I've got a list of like 3 people that hold me in high regard. So I'm glad to double it now by making it 6. That's cool. So in that regard alone, you got my time now, right?
I like it. That's Jake. That's why I bring you on. Before I let you go, obviously you're going to call the race Sunday. You and Mark and everyone else that does a tremendous job at that, painting a picture for everybody. What do you expect to see Sunday?
It's oftentimes these races get fractured, right? Let's just assume, guys. We're going to say this up front. This is under the assumption, obviously, that this is going to be a full 500-mile race under perfect weather conditions. It's going to be cool. So I think it's going to be fast. The hybrids could play a factor in that, which will be interesting. But assuming it stays dry and there's not a lot of wind, they have the potential for a very fast race. Now, taking the hybrid, kind of the unknown of the stability of engine of that out of the equation, I think it's interesting because at the beginning of the race, you've got obviously Schwartzman, and then you've got Sato, who I think can be very aggressive, and Pato, right? So I think you've got to kind of feel your way through the beginning of the race. Then you have the other storyline of Newgarden and Power coming from the back. I personally believe that Newgarden in particular will have the car, the speed, and the moxie to work his way towards the front. They're going to need a little pit strategy there. But I think it's entirely possible that as the race goes on through different stints that you will see Newgarden move up. A lot of that becomes also the question of, the traffic he's going to have to work through and the experience of some of those drivers that he's going to have to work his way through. It's going to be a good storyline to watch. And how much downforce they have to put in the car to keep it stable through that traffic, and how much they can alter the car throughout the course of the race. McLaughlin's another one to me that's interesting, because I think Scott McLaughlin, who I would have said 2 weeks ago was my pick to win the race, but now he has the crash. Now he's starting in 4. And so they haven't really, this particular car, they probably have not had this particular tub worked with different setups to know how to massage it over the course of the race as he deals with different aerodynamics of the race itself. So the beginning of the race, I think, is going to be interesting to see what happens with Schwartzman and Sato in particular, the aggression of Sato and how the rookie handles that. Then you get into, as the race plays itself out, how much is Newgarden going to be able to come up? How much is McLaughlin going to be able to get up there and play? And then the storyline of, if it comes down to a shootout, and if it does come down to a shootout, I think you've got to look at Sato probably, Pato, Dixon, Palou, and I'll throw one of those Penske's in there. And maybe Lundgaard. I think Lundgaard might be the dark horse here. But then you get into Chevrolet versus Honda. Pretty even balance between those two that I just mentioned in terms of how many are in a Chevy and how many are in Honda. I think Chevy may have the faster breakaway speed if it comes down to a last couple of laps shootout. Honda might be a little better in the fuel efficiency. We've seen this the last few years. So that, to me, is going to be interesting. I just keep going back to, in my mind, I'm not saying this guy's going to win it, but I think Lundgaard's interesting because we talk so much about Pato. I think about when Ericsson won the race. When Ericsson won the race, everybody was talking about everybody else in his stable but him. And now with Arrow McLaren, you're talking a lot about Kyle Larson, a lot about Pato. Lundgaard's just kind of there. And this dude's not experienced on ovals, but he's really technical. He's really sound. He's very smart. And he's going to have a good car. So I wouldn't rule him out either. But I think I'd be surprised if it's not one of those names that I just mentioned, but that's why it's the greatest race in the world.
Jake, great stuff as always. Always look forward to being able to speak with you if it's on IndyCar or if it's even your favorite type of mayonnaise, whatever it is. Definitely enjoy speaking with you, and look forward to seeing you on Friday. Get some rest because, like Josh said, you've had a long day, and look forward to a busy weekend out of the track, to say the least.
Let me leave you guys with this note, okay? You'll find this funny. I'm very lucky. I'm very fortunate, and I know it, to be able to be part of a lot of the activities around, and I love every minute of it. I've got to take advantage of my 10 days of relevance. But a couple of weeks ago, they asked if at my work, if I wanted to be part of the community day going into schools with a different driver. And I originally couldn't do it. At the last minute, the 11th hour, I said, hey, my schedule cleared up. I can do the community day now. And they said, well, we only have one pairing left, and it's really early in the morning, which is tomorrow morning. And they said, but this was last week. We'll go ahead and give you this on Wednesday, but we'll give you the early time slot because you're probably getting out of it because this guy's probably going to get bumped from the field. Assignment. And I said, you're right. I mean, there's probably a good chance that I'm not going to be doing community day because I don't know that this guy will be in the field. So having said that, tomorrow morning at 7:45 in the morning, I'm going to an elementary school on the west side with Robert Schwartzman, the pole sitter. So you never know how things work in Indianapolis.
No, you don't. But Jake, rest up. Have fun tomorrow morning, even though none of us would have thought that was going to happen. And definitely look forward to hearing you this weekend, along with Mark, Michael, and everyone else that make up the IndyCar Network and the great job that you guys always do.
All right, guys. Thanks, man. Be good.
Thanks, Jake.
Yep, we'll see you.
ladies and gentlemen, go check him out. Social medias. Listen to him on the INDYCAR network with Mark James and the rest of the crew there. And he does a radio show, if you don't know, locally here, 107.5 The Fan or 1070 The Fan at noon Monday through Friday. Go check that out. Very, very informational. Thanks to Jake Query for coming on. We do have another guest here set up here in the next few minutes or so, but curious, guys, to get your thoughts on some of the input and insight that Jake talked about, not only from what went down with Team Penske, but what to expect to see potentially on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, Jake breaks it down. He breaks it down really well. He's probably next to a few other people. He's probably the most knowledgeable person I've ever talked to about IndyCar. Mark James being the other one. This is going to be one heck of a race. They're talking about some from precipitation in the morning. Hopefully that passes over and it doesn't actually do anything, doesn't slow up the race. And this is going to be one heck of a race. And I think on Sunday we're going to get there, and everyone's just going to forget about the black cloud for at least 6 or 7 hours as people file in, starting as early as 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, so that they can get their spot. They had a great announcement over this past week of they're lifting the blackout, and they sold the grandstands out today. I think we're going to talk about that momentarily, but they sold all the reserve seats out. So this is going to be one heck of a race. The one thing I want everyone to keep in the back of their head: what happens if one of those two cars wins the race? Whether it be Newgarden winning his third consecutive, or the other, or Power winning it. What happens then?
Yeah, when you bring 350,000 people into a sporting event, it's definitely the biggest sporting event of the year. It outweighs the NFL Super Bowl, the Daytona 500, any of your big historical events. I mean, you can't get 350,000 people into a stadium. So this stadium you can. This racetrack will be packed. I'm going to be there bright and early before the sun rises, before the cannon goes off. And when that cannon goes off, people are going to be filing in, finding their seats, bringing in their coolers. And that's one thing. Like I was talking to someone earlier today who's never been to the 500, would like to get out there, but they work on Sundays. And he told me, he said, what's the best thing about being a fan at the Indy 500? And I said, one of the best things is that you can bring your own cooler, food, whatever you want. Pack that thing full. Pack a 24-pack of Bud Light in there, Busch Light, whatever you like, whatever your adult beverage is, as long as it's not in glass. Bring it on in and have a good time. If you like music, the Snake Pit's going to be going on in turn 3, full of craziness. And I was talking to someone else about that, how just crazy amped the Snake Pit is. And I don't think there's any tickets left for that either, but hey, you can get your general admission ticket and at least bump your ear over that way. It's just, as you can tell, I'm very excited for the 500. And I haven't even talked about the race yet. So just those things that, and if you're a history buff, I tell people this all the time. If you love history, this is a place you have to experience one time in your life, because just walking in that morning after the cannon goes off, it's, the dew's still in the grass, the cars are still in the garage, but you can just feel the history as you walk through that gate.
Yeah, Michael and Josh, I'm right there with you. I know of 2 individuals that are going to be going to their first 500 on Sunday. Josh and Michael, you'll be able to meet them here this weekend. But just trying to explain to them what to expect and what to see. I think it's something that you can't describe, and it's just something that you have to experience for yourself. And if you only do it one time, I know a few years back I had my brother and my dad came for the first time, and they hadn't been back, and that's totally fine. But you have to experience it for the first time. And I hope that the race is just, back to the old, down to the wire, so we have something else more to talk about than obviously this team did this and this team caught this team doing this and storylines like that. I just hope the race is just down to the wire and it's a close finish, and where we have more things to talk about than what we've had to discuss since Sunday night for the most part. But I do see that our next guest here is getting ready to join us. He may be in the makeup room, so we'll let him get out of there, and then we'll put him up here and let him give his 2 cents. I know he's a huge fan of the race. I got to meet this individual last year, and we kind of connected and hit things off. And the only time we meet now, obviously, is at the track once a year. But Andrew Chernoff, sports journalist from WISH-TV, is now our guest. Andrew, first and foremost, a huge thank you for being able to take some time out of your busy schedule. I know this month especially is busy for you and everyone over there at WISH-TV. But huge thank you for joining us, and a lot to talk about. From the last time that we spoke this past weekend till now, we've talked about qualifying and Robert Schwartzman doing the elite feat that he did. Nobody, I don't think, thought that Robert Schwartzman, the rookie, was going to sit on pole for Sunday's race. And then who knew what the cloud that was going to follow after that? Get your thoughts on all that.
I mean, absolutely incredible. Robert Schwartzman is one of those drivers, I think, when we look back at his resume, it's extremely impressive. And when he joined the IndyCar series this year, I remember even telling people in the office, I'm like, this kid can drive anything with wheels. And I don't think any of us expected him to necessarily get the pole for the Indy 500. He did. And and it just shows you how good he is. I'm not saying he's going to win this race, but what he's done already this month is unbelievable, and the history he's made. And again, just look at his resume. If you guys are at home, look up his resume at some point this week, because it's impressive. The kid can drive a car. There's no question about it. So it's impressive. I think Ryan Briscoe has helped a huge amount. I remember talking with Ryan on Saturday, or talking with Robert about it on Saturday. I talked to Callum about it on Saturday. Just the impact that Ryan Briscoe has had as sporting director for that new Prema team has been huge. And it's pretty cool to hear the crowd erupt like that for a rookie on pole day. It is pretty awesome. And I think that it's sort of the underdog story. I even joke, like, it's sort of similar to what I think BHA, Brian Herta Autosport, had when Weldon was good in 2011. The little underdog team that didn't necessarily have the financial backing or history, if you will, of an Andretti or a Penske or a Ganassi, yet they still are able to get the pole for the 500, or in Weldon's case, win the 500, qualify well. It was pretty cool to see, for sure.
Yeah, it was definitely a storybook story for him, obviously, and I know Robert talked about that post qualifying. So huge congratulations goes out to him. Even the front row in general. I mean, you have Robert Schwartzman, a rookie that he's going to be taking turn one, and I can't imagine anybody else would want to be in his position going into turn one when you have all those hungry drivers behind you, like Takuma Sato, who's looking for his third Indy 500 victory. And then you have, Pato Award that has been so close the last few years. And you know how aggressive Pato can be. So Robert's definitely going to have his hands full, I think, on Sunday.
Yeah, without question. And I think the biggest thing with Robert now going forward is, how does he handle a race? Obviously, a lot has been made about the fact that he's never raced on an oval. This is going to be his first try at that. How do you race this race as your first oval race? And it's complicated because it's the biggest race. Everyone knows about it. You want to lead, right? Your natural instinct is to take the lead in this race and just stay out front. I think Robert, and this is where Ryan Briscoe is going to be a huge part, just as the team sporting director, having been in this situation before. you don't necessarily want to lead for a lot of this race. If you can save fuel in second or third position and get yourself to the last 50 to 30 laps, especially after that final pit stop around, with 30 to go, 25 to go, whatever it may be, give yourself a chance. So Robert, I think instinctually is going to want to lead. And he's a rookie. That's the natural instinct, right? Like I led lap 1, I led lap 2, I led 70 laps to the 500, whatever it may be. But it's a waiting game. You just got to give yourself a chance in those last 50 laps, those last 20 laps. If you can get with 20 laps to go, I believe, Derik, you're going to give yourself a chance to win. And I think you probably need to be in the top 3, top 4 if it's a green flag situation.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And it's going to be interesting to see, like you mentioned, when that green flag drops and Robert's on pole, what's he going to do? Going into turn 1, obviously at 230, 240 miles an hour with the other drivers behind him, specifically Pato O'Ward and Takuma Sato being as aggressive as they are. What's his strategy going to be? And is he going to will he avoid maybe even wrecking on lap 1, which would be horrible all the way around? But yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what Robert's strategy is on Sunday. Michael, I see Josh had to step away for a minute. Michael, anything that you want to ask Andrew?
Yeah, Andrew, thank you for joining us. My question is, and we've talked a lot about racing, even tonight, but even at the track. My question is we had the fever at the track. Can you just talk about the excitement in Indianapolis right now with all the sporting events that are happening right now with and the big stars and the big names?
Michael, it's a quiet month. There's not much going on. I know what we're talking about. No, there's a lot happening in Indianapolis this month. There's no question about it. And it's weird because last year, I think whenever Pacers are doing their thing like they are this year, it makes the month of May even more special. They're doing that. And I think just the fact that they're one series away from going to the NBA Finals, it's been pretty cool. Like I was driving down Auburn Street right next to the Speedway going into our parking lot the last few days. You see a lot of checkered flags. You see a lot of Indianapolis Motor Speedway stuff. You know what you also see? A lot of Pacers flags. I've seen some Fever flags. This whole city right now, this month in particular, is sports crazy. And I don't want to understate just how crazy it is. Like, you had the Fever season opener last weekend, just a couple days ago. You have the Pacers getting ready to go up to New York for game 1 on Wednesday. You have the Indy 500 stuff going on. This is a blast. Like, I mean, it's cool. And it's cool to see everyone sort of intertwining with the understanding of how big of a month this is. Like you mentioned it, you had the Fever come out. Stephanie White, the head coach, waved the green flag for practice on Sunday. Aaliyah Boston was there. I mean, you go through the list of the Fever players that were there. That was pretty cool. The Pacers, would be at the track, but they just have the Eastern Conference Finals. So they're a little busy, but they'd be there. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton drove the pace car, like a couple years ago. So this is really cool to be in Indianapolis at this moment because of everything that's going on. And it just reiterates how big of a sports city this place is.
Yeah, it's one thing that I always, before moving here, I'd always drive over to Indianapolis for sporting events, whether it was the Fuel, something going on at Lucas Oil Stadium. And now I feel like the old man of this group because I don't do anything anymore. Once 8 o'clock comes, I'm like, it's time for bed. So, but yeah, to see all the sporting events happening in this city, even we had the Royal Rumble earlier this year with WWE. They're bringing WrestleMania here hopefully soon. It's just this city puts on sporting events like no other city.
Without question. And Indy's always been that way. I always argue like Indy may not be the biggest city in the United States, right? But there is no doubt, if I had my hand to the Bible right now, whatever it may be, Indianapolis is a top 5 sports city in the United States. No hesitation, just because of what everything sports means to this city. It's basketball. It's when the Colts are playing well, people love the Colts. Just go back to the Peyton Manning era, right? Indy 500. I mean, we're selling out. 350,000 people are going to be there, and this is in the year 2025 when a lot of places aren't necessarily selling out. Like this city loves its sports without question, and you see the Fever attendance setting WNBA records. The Pacers right now going crazy. When IU or Purdue basketball, Butler basketball is making a run, everyone stops what they're doing and they talk about it. I mean, it's cool in the city when everything is sort of lining up, and for whatever reason, the month of May makes it even more special. And clearly that starts with the 500, but when you throw in other things to the mix in the month of May, whether it's the Pacers or the Fever, whatever it may be, it just makes it absolutely a delight.
Yes, it does. And I want to thank you for coming on. Josh, what do you have for Andrew?
Oh, I mean, everything you said was correct. Not only are we going to have the 500, but the Pacers are going to be playing in town that night. Hopefully there's not a rain delay, because people that have tickets for the Pacers and the 500 are going to have to figure out what they're going to do, because last year the traffic was terrible. But yeah, what's your best aspect of race day? What do you love the most about race day?
Besides all of it, I mean, so I think it's weird, because race day for me is a very, full disclosure, it's my favorite day of the year. Like, I always joke with people, if I had Super Bowl tickets or Indy 500 tickets, Indy 500 100% of the time, no hesitation, right? I think that a part of that is growing up in Indiana. I grew up in Carmel, so it just has always been a special place in my heart. And IndyCar has always been my favorite sport. And that day, obviously, is the Super Bowl for IndyCar. So I think it just, honestly, one of my favorite parts about it, and this is something I'm going to do this year because I always do this every year. I always get to the track. I don't have to be on TV till 8, right? But I always get to the track maybe by 5 or 4:35-ish every single race day morning. And I always make sure to walk along the grandstands, sit in turn 1 in the penthouse, and I allot myself 20 minutes to just sit in silence. No one's near me. I look down the front stretch. I look down turn 2, and it just is calming to me, because you start thinking about the importance of what's about to take place and just the quietness of that place before 350,000 people show up to watch this event that is just, until you experience it, you don't understand it. And to me, that's one of my favorite parts about race day, is just that solitude of the anticipation for what's about to take place. Now, once the cannons go off, or now the fireworks, right? Both of them, it's awesome, because you start seeing people in here, see people in the track, and it's awesome because also everyone's in a good mood. That's the other thing too that I really love. Like, no one goes to the track on race day mad about something. You're at the Indianapolis 500. Everyone's in a great mood, whether you're in the snake pit, whether you're in turn 1, whether you're in the pagoda, wherever it is, whether you're a driver, you love that race. So everyone's in a good mood. And then just the history of it. Obviously, another favorite part of mine, everyone always jokes the last 50 laps, right? You never know what's going to happen. And so when those happen every single year, you can't make this stuff up. The stories that are written in that race, you can't predict. I can't predict that now. I can't predict that on Saturday. That's sort of the cool thing, is because you don't know what's going to happen until after it's over. And I like to always cite back 2011. Jared Hildebrand's about to win. Who had on the bingo card that he was going to crash out of turn 4 on the last lap? You never know what's going to happen. And so I think going in with that mentality is always something that's extremely special, because it literally holds you on your edge of your seat throughout the entire day.
I obviously I can't agree more. We've had so many great finishes over the years, and just think last year, everybody thought on the last lap, Pato O'Ward took the lead into turn one, and we thought, well, you know what, this is going to finally be his year. But as well known, Joseph Newgarden was able to catch him in turn three, and that was kind of the end of Pato's day. So obviously, we don't know what we don't know. But getting into Sunday's race, Andrew, kind of curious to get your thoughts, expectations, and if you would, and if you can, give us a race pick.
So, can I give a cop-out answer too, Derik? Am I allowed to give a cop-out answer on who I think is going to win?
Sure.
Okay, so I've said from the start of this month, I think Alex Palou is going to win. And I know that's not a situation where, why are you thinking him? Obviously, he's the hottest driver on the circuit right now. There's no question about that. What he's been able to do is insane. Just the streak that he's on. And I like to always go back to what he's been able to do at this race. He and Renus a few years ago get into a crash in the pits. I believe Alex Palou, don't quote me on this, but I think he finished in the top 5 again. The kid can drive on ovals, even though he's never won an oval race, right? He's good. So I think this is finally his year. And I was even telling one of my coworkers the other day, I have this weird algorithm, right, in my mind about who wins this race. You either have to be a former champion of the 500, which has happened, right? You go through Takuma Sato, Joseph Newgarden, whatever it may be, right? An XF1 driver, Alex Rossi, Marcus Ericsson, whatever it may be, or a former IndyCar champion that year in particular or before that, okay? And I think the last person that hasn't fit that category was Buddy Rice in 2004. So that's why I think Alex Palou's time is now. He's been the IndyCar champion. He knows how to drive on ovals. The one thing missing from his resume is the 500. I think he wins. Now, with that being said, we'll see. I mean, this field is so deep, and that's the other thing too. Pato O'Ward could easily throw a wrench into my algorithm, right? He knows how to drive on this track too. So my guess is Palou wins, but there are probably 7 or 8 guys who I think could. 2 drivers I think who are massive sleepers that people aren't talking about. Actually, I'll say 3. Scott Dixon has been very consistent this entire month. Takuma Sato, we always gloss over the fact that he's a 2-time winner. He's starting on the front row. He knows how to win on this track. It wouldn't surprise me if he's a 3-time winner, and then now he's in that category with Dario Franchitti and a few other drivers, right? But those 2 guys, and then the last guy who I think has been quietly consistent is Marcus Ericsson. He just seems to not necessarily post the fastest time every single day, but he's just there. He's just lingering. And if things fall into place, he knows how to drive on this track. It could fall into his pocket for sure.
Andrew, great segue, because we have our betting expert actually coming up next. So great segue there, checks in the mail. But Andrew, like I said, huge thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule. I know you're not busy, but we'll say it anyway. And joining us, and look forward to seeing you on Friday. And obviously, I'm sure we'll cross paths at some point, if not multiple times, on Sunday. But again, a huge thank you for joining us, and look forward to seeing you this weekend.
Anytime, Derik, and seriously, appreciate all you guys do talk about the sport. It's fun. So our Christmas, I like to say, is coming up on Sunday. So there's no better time of year. And I always appreciate seeing Derik, by the way, guys, in the media center talking about he's shaking his head here, but I do appreciate you, Derik, for always talking about the 500 and being such a big fan of this race, as I think we all are. We don't just cover it. We're fans of this thing as well.
Yeah, can't agree more. Again, Andrew, thank you, and we'll see you this weekend.
Absolutely. Cannot wait.
That was our guest there. Go check him out and look for his piece that he's going to do for TV there on Sunday. Definitely has a passion for the sport, and we'd love to see that. Like I said, then we are going to segue into Josh's favorite part of the show when we bring our betting expert in and sharpen your pencils, because this is exactly what we've been waiting for all year, the Super Bowl of auto racing, the Indianapolis 500. And Mike, I know you've been waiting for this just as much as we have.
Yeah, he stole my line. This is our Christmas, right? Like this is the Christmas, and it's exciting. I'm curious to see what app Josh has up there and what options he has. But yeah, look, we've been talking about betting this race. This is usually the race where we get the most options, the most props, the most just stuff out there, and the more opportunities to bet this sport like other sports are bet, right? Like, F1 betting, NASCAR betting, all other motor racing betting. You can even go as far as saying like ping pong betting has more offerings usually than IndyCar does on a weekly basis. So yeah, it's Christmas week, Christmas morning, and Sunday's, Christmas Day kind of deal. And yeah, we got some bets out there. I will say, look, we're here to talk about what to bet on, how to bet on it, how to win. Have been super disappointed, with what the sports books have had out there. Not that there isn't a menu of bets. Caesars posted a big menu of bets. Just the numbers they posted and the type of bets they posted. They posted a lot of one of these two guys to win, one of these two guys to finish top 5, top 10. And really, if you look at the true odds for that stuff, when you consider crashes and why got, and everything like that, like the odds and the numbers they put out are just terrible. They're unbettable for me. Really the only markets that I've seen that I think are worth betting right now are the win market and the top 3 market. And this is the race I kind of hope for some props. I've come on this podcast for, I don't know, maybe last 2-3 years or however long you've been doing it, and said, my favorite prop is under grid position to win the race. And it used to be 9.5 or under. So any guy starting between 1 and 9 on the grid wins the race. And that was something I used to love. I used to bet that big. It used to be plus money. Caesars doesn't even offer anymore. What they've done is they now say driver to win the race, grid position. And they say between 1 and 3, 2-1, between 4 and 6, 2-1, between 7 and 9, 2-1. It's terrible. It kills the value. It's just so they can get a bigger hold. It makes it almost unbettable, like I said. But all that, I'll get off my soapbox and talk about, hey, this has been probably the most tumultuous Indy 500 odds that I can remember. I came into this week with bets on McLaughlin and O'Ward. I've been saying those are the two guys who I have been betting all along since I think I placed my first bet in February when the odds dropped. So I have a 10-1 Pato ticket, a 10-1 McLaughlin ticket. I've been hammering those guys, taking little pieces of my winnings from other past races when I've had profit and putting it onto those two drivers. So I am kind of glad McLaughlin didn't get booted. I feel a lot less confident about McLaughlin than I did, let's see, a week ago, a little less than a week ago, after everything that's happened. And he doesn't look like he's got the rocket ship that he had. So that's frustrating. All the Penske stuff is frustrating. And, my plan was to come in and bet the Penske cars with Pato. That was my plan. I was going to basically scatter around, win bets and top 3 bets on Power, Newgarden, and McLaughlin, and then tag it up with Pato. And I've had to hit the full stop button on that, right? I think it's going to be fun to watch. I think it's going to be interesting if we get some matchups, Joseph and Power versus some other guys in the field. The books still have Newgarden at like 9-1, 7-1, which is ridiculous given where he's starting this race. Power actually has dropped to 22. It'll be interesting to watch those guys. They're going to tear through the first half of the field, no problem. But how much fuel are they going to waste? Tires are they going to waste doing that? Like, it's a 500-mile race. It's not impossible. But basically my betting has shifted. I'm not committing to this yet. I'm going to wait to see carb day. I'm going to wait to see what happens. I'm going to wait to hear I don't think I've heard Joseph or Power talk since the whole scandal or whatever, cheating, all this stuff that's going on. Maybe I missed that, but I'm going to find it. and see what they have to say and see what they can do without their engineers and without their strategists or whoever else is suspended. But I kind of think I'm shifting towards, instead of the Pato and the Penske's, it's going to be Pato, and I'm kind of leaning Dixon and Palou. And that's the top of the board, and I'm going to have to bet those guys to win in top 3. But I'm also holding out to hope that there's some props. So keep an eye on Twitter, keep an eye on my account. If the props come up, if matchups come up, if we get a better menu, I'll be all over that. But I think as of tonight, if you said the 500 was tomorrow morning, my betting card would probably consist of some everything I already got on Pato. I'm already pot committed to McLaughlin, and I think I would be steering away from anybody else but Palou and Dixon. I mean, Palou and Dixon both should have won this race once over, if you think about what happened to them. And I don't know if you want to call the speeding Dixon's fault. Palou's was not his fault. BK ran into him. So yeah, man, that's where I'm at, and I'm excited to find a way to make money on it. What app you got, Josh?
I know Josh is over there licking his chops because he's been looking forward to this day for quite a long time, the betting aspect of things. So, Josh, what do you have for Mike?
It was Caesars, the one that you dogged. I use Caesars just because I get the rewards points and that. Yeah, looking at this, I mean, that Caesars is kind of weird. And looking, they have bets at like -900. Will Power win? Yes or no? It's a strange one. They still have Newgarden up there at a 12-1. He's the 8th best odds. So it's kind of weird. I put some money down on Ray Hall and McLaughlin to win. No, Ray Hall and Lundgaard to win the Grand Prix, and of course they both did not win. So I lost $25 there. But yeah, just going through some of these, just weird. Are these 3 drivers going to finish in the top 10? Newgarden, Pato, and Dixon. They have weird bets. So I mean, this is the first time I'm actually looking at it. Will the over under on the car number of winning? It's strange. So I'll keep looking and seeing. For some reason, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just because of his energy and how just. He's a 2-time winner. I might put a couple bucks on Sato to win. He's going off at 12-1. But of course, I'll stick with throw some money on Award and Dixon. But it's going to be one heck of a weekend. Seeing what happens.
Yeah, look, I think all those numbers at Caesars are right now. Like, I went through the whole thing. I didn't find one bet that I liked. Like, not a one besides besides in the win and top 3 market. They do have in my app, I clicked on it, I pretended to be in Indiana, and it gave me a boost on Dixon to 7-1. I'm okay with that. I think that's a decent number for Dixon. If you're going to go the Dixon Palou route. But honestly, look, I think I put a tweet out there. I'm fairly confident the winner is Award, Dixon, Palou, McLaughlin. And then if you want to, I don't mind Sato. I thought about Ericsson, maybe Ericsson's top 3, Sato's top 3. I mean, those are decent numbers on those guys, but honestly, Award, Dixon, Palou, McLaughlin, that's the list. If McLaughlin shows, and McLaughlin he might be off the island if he doesn't show any speed on carb day. In his new car. So if they can figure that out, if I see anything race trim, top 10, toe speed, I don't know, some form of life from McLaughlin. I don't know if he's got the history here, but something bad will happen to one of Dixon or Palou, and you have to. So I want a piece of both of them. Some sort of bad luck, right? Or but then the other one I think is sitting pretty, and then obviously I still think Pato wins the race. So I'm happy him to be in the row 3. I'm happy all this talk about Palou, all this talk about Penske, and Pato's just quietly going about his business. And, he's been there at the very end. He knows how to get to the very end. He's not going to do anything dumb. And I think that's the bet. So I want as much Pato exposure as possible. And I might, sprinkle a little in of Dixon, Palou, use the boosts, shop around on sports books. And then look, I think, you're going to be at the race, you're enjoying it. You should bet some of these props that are for fun. So like if you want, it's too bad they do the over under on the car number, I think is 9.5, right? So that pretty much gives you Dixon, McLaughlin, and Pato, and obviously takes out Pillow in his 10 car. So, there are no dummies there, or if you have like a boatload of money, I do have one bet I'd make on Caesars. If you just want to, take your life savings and put it on Kyle Larson not to win the race, no, at minus 8,000. There you go. There's your bet. So $8,000 to win 100. So what is that? Hey, there's $100 you didn't have before if you got $8,000 to put down on it. He's not winning.
Definitely look forward to what's going to happen this Sunday. I know there was talk, maybe Mike, that you were going to head down this weekend, or actually, I guess it'd be head up this weekend. Is that still a possibility, or are you just going to chill out and where you're at?
Nope, unfortunately not this year. Just life got in the way for me. But I will be. I've already made it very clear to my children that I will be. We'll be at the beach this weekend over in Clearwater. I will be either by the pool with it on my computer screen, or I will be hanging out watching. They will not be allowed to bug me between those hours, and I will have some pizza, some nachos, a bunch of beer, and I'll be watching the race. And they can go do what they want.
You know what? That sounds like the perfect way. If you're not going to make it up here to the track, what other way than sit on the beach, eat nachos, and drink some adult beverages and watch the Indianapolis 500 from there. But Mike, I can't wait to see what other things that you may have coming out this weekend before the green flag drops. Make sure you check out his Twitter or X because he puts out the lines as the other sporting or the other betting sites put them out. So definitely keep that up in your timeline. But Mike, as always, a huge thank you for joining us, and look forward to what we have coming up this weekend at the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500. All right. We are about done. I do know we need to preview the 500, and as soon as we get our weather report here to it, as we see the official weatherman has stepped in to the podcast, so let's bring him up. Let's get that weather report that sounds like it's going to be almost picturesque for this weekend, sir.
Well, that's what we kind of hope, but I will say it still looks a little bit iffy as we go into Sunday. So I actually want to take you guys back to last week. I know people were asking a lot, hey, what's the outlook? What's the outlook? And back at the time, we were maybe 2 weeks out. It was a little too far ahead, but I kind of did sketch out the big picture, right? So we figured there would be a system popping out of the Rockies into the Midwest as we started the week. Check. Yep, that happened. It's going to move over northern Indiana over the next day or so. Yep, check, got it. And then it gets over western New York, southern Ontario, and basically stalls out and dies. So in the meantime, you have maybe a few showers out there on Wednesday and Thursday, and then we start to get in the forecast there into Friday, and those showers pretty much should have moved off to the north, and we look pretty good Friday. So here's the part where the uncertainty is coming in right now. We are going to have some high pressure that backfills in behind that low, and we want that. So that's drier air. It's more stable air. And when it's strong enough, it acts as a block for any weaker approaching systems and approaching rain. Earlier this week, when I first put this forecast out on Sunday and we went into Monday, that high pressure looked like it would be pretty strong and far enough south that it would keep any approaching rain to the south on Sunday. I would say in the last 24 hours, the forecast models have kind of changed their tune a little bit in regards to that high pressure. And I think they're still trying to resolve what it's going to look like. And the result of that, though, is that some of the models are now depicting that rain inching closer and closer into central Indiana. I mean, including one run which actually had it in central Indiana. And that's why you see on the Sunday that I've got it cloudy and making mention of some rain showers, at least for now, to the south. So I don't want a windshield wipe is what I call the forecast, where this is something your phone app probably does all the time, right? Because it just takes the data in. It's going to rain. It's not going to rain. It's going to rain. It's not going to rain. That's not really the smart way to do it. So what I want to do is watch it, look for trends, and look for consistency, and then adjust the forecast to that. So as it stands right now, Friday and Saturday look fine. I don't really foresee any issues with either of those days. And then as we get to Sunday, for now, I think the most likely location for the majority of that rain is going to be over South Indiana. But it's really close. So I got to see some more and just see how that adjusts over the next day or so. I know people want kind of a solid answer right now, but it's only Tuesday. And Sunday, and that is basically a lifetime away in terms of Indiana weather for late May. So for now it's dry, but it's an iffy dry. So we'll keep an eye on it, and if we got to adjust it moving forward, we will.
So I think it's safe to say before you get on out of here that there's probably going to be more updates in between now and race day on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now I'm trying. So we'll get. Normally I get model runs 4 times a day, right? That's how it works. So we'll get some stuff in the overnight, and I'll be able to check that in the morning. And what I've been kind of doing is wait until the afternoon so I can get a couple more looks and see if there's a trend or consistency across the different forecast products. So for now, daily I would have folks look sometime in the early afternoon for an update. And then as we get closer, maybe we'll get more than daily, especially if there's some changes that significantly warrant that. Well, let me add
if there are changes in between now and Sunday for people that don't follow you already, and shame on them if they don't, where can they find, where will you post those changes at?
Yeah, so I'm really good about putting updates on both X and Blue Sky. And, folks you can Google search IndyCar weatherman. It should come right up. And I know I've picked up a ton of followers on both platforms over the last couple of days. So there, I have been less active on Threads. I'm not sure how much more active I'll be over there. It's not, I don't think is conducive for real-time updates, but I do. But on X and Blue Sky, if you're over there, if you got questions, I do my best to try to answer those when I see them. Let me just throw out one more thing. I will say that I think we got a pretty good handle on the temps, right? So I haven't seen anything really deviating from mid 60s as kind of a low threshold, a floor, if you will, and then a ceiling somewhere low 70s. So comfortable in that respect. And it should make for some pretty good racing as long as we can just get past a potential rain piece.
Absolutely. Good stuff, weatherman. And like I said, we'll all be crossing our fingers and toes if we're able to hopefully that rain holds off on Sunday and we have a picture-perfect race day.
All right. Awesome, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Go check out his work there at those platforms that he just mentioned. And like I said, hopefully we're able to have a picture perfect or picturesque day for Sunday. All right, before we get into Sunday, we'll talk about that here a little bit. We do need to thank some sponsors that make it possible for us to bring you the Push to Pass podcast on a regular basis. First and foremost, huge thank you to Always Ready 1776 for all your patriotic apparel, headwear, and more. Go check out Always Ready 1776, and you can find them on the internet at alwaysready1776.com. And if you do find something that you do want to purchase, make sure you use that promo code you see there, push to pass, for 10% off of your order. Also, huge thank you to Get 'em Associates for all your design, build, and remodeling needs. Remember, it's Get 'em Associates, and you can find them on the web at getem.com. And if you do choose to use their services, make sure you use that promo code again as well, push to pass, for $250 off any design service. Huge thank you both to Always Ready 1776 and Get 'em Associates for being proud sponsors of the Push to Pass podcast. All right, getting back into, we can finally close the book on qualifying, close the book on the black cloud that is lingering over Team Penske, and let's get into what we are going to witness on Sunday, which is the greatest spectacle in racing, the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500. If you are unfamiliar with the track and what it looks like, here is the layout. And let's run down some track facts and statistics here for us as the my computer here updates the page that I want to take these stats off of. But yes, 2.5 miles. As you see, it's going to be 500 miles and 200 laps there at the world famous Indianapolis Motor Speedway. 4 corners, great view anywhere you want to sit there in turn 1. Going to be very exciting with a rookie leading from pole, and he's going to take the field of 33 down into turn number 1. Like I said, with 4 corners of banking at 9 degrees, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway drives more like a road course than an oval, believe it or not. But each corner is different, with weather influencing the car's characteristics that we just talked about there just a few minutes ago. The straightaways are 5/8 of a mile long. Time to catch your breath, and then it's into the next corner. So that is what your track layout looks like there. Next, let's get into the limited schedule that we're going to have this weekend. Obviously, is going to get things kicked off real early. It says 11 a.m., but for people that are carb day veterans, obviously gets kicked off before 11. But final practice will be at 11 a.m. So you'll see all 33 cars that are going to participate in Indianapolis 500 in that final practice on Friday. And then something that's just added within the last couple years is the pit stop competition, and that'll be at 2:30 on Friday. Obviously, Saturday, no track activity with the 500 parade downtown Saturday morning. And then it is all eyes on Sunday. And when that cannon goes off, and as Michael alluded to earlier, the people get to their seats and they start buying their merchandise and getting settled in, because it is going to be one long of a day. Coverage of the race on TV is going to get kicked off at 10 a.m. as you see there, and then at noon, that is when the green flag drops for the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500. Also, as we like to do as well, let's take a look at some of the past winners of this race. Obviously, you see right here on screen, 2024, 2023, Joseph Newgarden. He's going to attempt to be the first driver ever to win the 500 3 times in a row, and he have his hands full starting all the way in the last row. And then you have another former winner there in 2022, Marcus Ericsson. And then you have Elio Castroneves, who is driving for 5, 2021, 2009, 2002, and 2001. Takuma Sato's looking for his 3rd Indy 500 victory. It came in 2000 and 2017. Then you have Will Power, 2018 winner. Alexander Rossi, the last rookie to win the 500 back in 2016. Then you have Ryan Hunter-Reay in 2014 and Scott Dixon all the way back in 2008. Fellas, I'd love to get your thoughts on what both of you expect to see this weekend. And obviously, we will not put out a race pick until Sunday before the green flag drops. But I want to hear what both of you think, Josh and Michael, what you expect to see this Sunday.
Well, starting Friday, I'm gonna see one of the greatest parties ever thrown. Going to be in the snake pit. You're going to have your snake pit, your carb day show this year is going to be Brett Michaels and All American Rejects. They're going to be over in the snake pit. That's going to be awesome. You're going to see a lot of fans. A lot of this used to be senior skip day. Everyone would take the day off and go out to the track for carb day. It's not as ruckus as it used to be, but it's getting back.
Well, it looks like we may have lost Josh here momentarily. Michael, thoughts and what you expect to see on Sunday?
Yeah, I think we're going to have a great race. Hopefully that weather stays to the south of us. Because if it does rain, we know that we may have a different driver in the 17 car. We really haven't touched on that. So yeah, we may have Tony Kanaan in the 17 if it rains and there's a delay, and Kyle Larson needs to make it to Charlotte because that is his priority this year since NASCAR enacted the Larson rule. But yeah, I think we're gonna have a great race. Hopefully, it's a safe race, and for you people that really love history, hopefully it's faster than the first race that ever was held at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which was a hot air balloon race. So. It's going to be a little faster than that. And yeah, I'm excited to see who is going to have their name imprinted on the Borg Warner trophy.
Yeah, Josh was so excited to give his take on Sunday that he just flew on out of here. So we're glad to have him back. Josh, you want to reiterate what you were talking about there on your expectations and what you expect to see on Sunday?
Sorry about that. I had some technical difficulties. I've been having it all day, and it's currently pouring down rain over here. Like I was saying, Saturday there is a public drivers meeting if you want to come out to the Speedway, and also a autograph session. Then we get to the Granddaddy of them all on Sunday. I am hoping there's no rain and that everyone's able to start the race. Everyone that's qualified for the race can start. And like we were talking about, it's going to be cool temperatures, which is going to bring up the track times, track laps a lot. You're going to have a lot of speed in those cars. So hopefully we have an incident-free race. I can't imagine we're going to have a caution-free race, but hopefully everyone walks away, and that at the end of the race we have a driver drinking milk, and of all the drivers, it's either going to be whole milk or 2% milk, from what I saw in the graphic that Derik sent me earlier today. I would have gone with skim, but that's just me.
Yeah, I would have not went with skim milk. I probably would go with the whole milk there. But yes, excited. This is, and I think Andrew said it best. It's Christmas here in May when the 500 rolls around. Can't wait to get things kicked off, as Josh said, on Friday with Carb Day. Also, we've seen that. Unfortunately, Josh isn't going to be driving one of the Wienermobiles, but there is going to be a Wiener 200, and it's not as derogatory as it sounds, but there will be a Wienermobile race on Friday during Carb Day, so that'll be exciting for everyone personally, and I think Michael may share the same opinion. I would personally like to see the Freedom 200 brought back, but that's just me. Maybe we can convince the Speedway to let Josh drive one of those Wienermobiles, but I doubt that happens. And then Saturday, like I said, you have the parade. All of the drivers are in their fancy cars as they're paraded through downtown, and the kids absolutely love that. And then Sunday, when that cannon goes off, and I just think about Michael saying that when that cannon goes off and those people dive bomb where they're going to be for the rest of the day. I know Josh, if he had his way, I know he would be hanging out in the snake pit because that's his thing. But for me and Michael, unfortunately, I guess maybe we're the old fogies of the group here, and we're just the snake pit just isn't for us. But I know Josh would enjoy. Maybe he could have an adult soda with Rob Gronkowski if he gets so lucky. But definitely look forward to Sunday. Obviously, we will put out our race picks Sunday before the green flag drops. So check all the social media accounts to find those. We will be out at the track all weekend, so look for coverage from that for Friday and Sunday. Again, check the social medias for up-to-date of every ongoings out at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500. All right, before we close things out, I think it was Josh earlier kind of let a little bit of news out that we did have queued up. And, as much criticism I think as Doug Bowles has taken maybe in the last 48 hours or so, let's give him some credit. Where the grandstands today was it announced that they are officially sold out. Absolutely. This is a long time coming, but the grandstands across the famed Indianapolis Motor Speedway will be filled for the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500. All reserved seats, including those in the grandstand and suites, are officially sold out. Doug Bowles did have this to say earlier today. As promised, the very best fans in sports have delivered in fitting fashion for the stars of the NTT IndyCar Series, and every last reserved seat ticket has been sold. Approximately 350,000 people will experience the ultimate spectacle that is the Indianapolis 500 in person as everyone turns their focus to the racing capital of the world on Sunday. So there are still tickets available for Carb Day, as we talked about, and then Legends Day, where there'll be a concert out at, I believe that's White River State Park, and then there's also wristbands available along with a ticket to get into the snake pit. But huge congratulations goes out to everybody involved that were able to help the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500 and selling out the grandstands. All right, fellas. Before we get on out here, before we drop the checkered flag and head into the Indianapolis 500 weekend.
Sorry, Derek, were you asking if we had anything else to say? If so, I don't. We've talked about pretty much everything, and I just can't wait to get to this race.
Yeah, I think we lost Derik. I know there's some severe storms rolling through here. I know down in your neck of the woods, his neck of the woods, and I got one coming my way. But it's going to be a very interesting race. Very excited. A lot going on. 350,000 people. The one thing I can say for sure is arrive early. Bring your sunscreen and just be patient trying to leave. If you're not in a hurry to leave, don't get in a hurry. And I know IMS and everyone, state police, Indy Metro Police, they do a great job of trying to get us in and out as quick as possible. But if you don't need to leave, you can watch the post-race celebration there with whoever wins. They're going to take a lap around the track in the pace car, waving at fans. So if you're not in a hurry to leave, just hang out.
Totally. Bring a grill out, eat dinner. But
yeah, maybe out in the parking lot.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Out in the parking lot, not in the stands. So other than that, for Derik and Michael, we're going to sign off here. And here's a video and we'll see you next week.
The road to the Indianapolis 500 is almost as tough as the race itself. The road to the Indianapolis 500 is